South Africa faces a serious and persistent unemployment crisis. Even under the strictest definition, these numbers continue to climb each year. According to the mid-year estimates, South Africa's population stands at 63.1 million in 2025. The majority of the population is Black African, with about 51.6 million people, roughly 82% of the total population. The white population is estimated at 4.5 million, while 5.3 million people identify as colored and 1.6 million as Indian or Asian. According to the quarterly labour force survey of the first quarter of 2025, there was an increase of 237,000 in the number of unemployed persons from 8 million to 8.2 million from the last quarter of 2024. The above changes in unemployment resulted in the official unemployment rate increasing by 1 percentage point from 31.9% in the fourth quarter of 2024 to 32.9% in the first quarter of 2025. This means that there are only 16.8 million employed persons in South Africa. It is, however, still the youth who continue to suffer the most as a result of unemployment. In the first quarter of 2015, the official unemployment rate for youth aged 15 to 34 was 36.9%. Only 10 years later, in the first quarter of 2025, that figure had climbed to 46.1%, a 9.2 percentage point increase that highlights deteriorating prospects for millions of young people. To further worsen their prospects, in the first quarter of 2025, the NEET, or Not in Employment, Education or Training, rate for young people aged 15 to 24 stood at 37.1%. This alarming crisis, alongside other challenges, should not be viewed as the root problem, but rather as a symptom of a deeper systemic crisis in South Africa. Other symptoms of the systemic crisis in South Africa that worsen the unemployment crisis include exceptionally low education standards, an economic framework that hampers growth, and excessive levels of government mismanagement. These will be briefly discussed. The education crisis. There is a significant mismatch between the required level of skills and training necessary to address the unemployment crisis and what the dysfunctional public school system is able to provide. More details on this crisis will be shared in a later publication. An economic framework that hampers growth. With a sluggish projected growth of 0.9% for 2025, the South African economy is unable to absorb the growing labour force. An economic framework conducive of growth is necessary to address this. Such a framework ought to be based on the protection of property rights and the promotion of freedom in the marketplace. However, the current policies and policies currently pursued by the South African government will achieve the opposite. Broad-based black economic empowerment has become a controversial issue in South Africa, with increasing evidence that the policy does not empower black people, nor does it promote equality, nor does it foster economic growth. It has been proven that it is a policy that only benefits an elite few within the ANC. Furthermore, strict labour laws and excessive red tape deter job creation, particularly for small and medium enterprises. A policy framework conducive to economic growth will ensure a better business environment and will create opportunities for unemployed people to enter the labour market. Excessive levels of government mismanagement. Mismanagement in public enterprises such as Eskom, Transnet and Water and Sanitation contributes to lack of exports and job creation. Just these three public enterprises recorded losses of more than 188.9 billion or $10.96 billion alone. Furthermore, the South African Auditor General has declared that only 16% of municipalities in the country received clean audits in the 2023-2024 year. These prevailing issues are a consequence of a destructive policy framework, general state failure, and a highly centralized political system that is fundamentally disconnected from grassroots realities in South Africa. It is clear from the above mentioned that the persistent unemployment crisis in South Africa is a direct consequence of a fundamentally flawed political system. The solution lies not in tweaking existing policies, but in fundamental systemic reform. Lex Libertas advocates for the decentralization of the political system to facilitate autonomy and self-governance for the various nations and communities that inhabit South Africa. This shift in responsibility from a dysfunctional, centralized state to more responsive and accountable communities is seen as the only viable path to protecting property rights, promoting freedom in the market, and ultimately enabling communities to flourish and achieve sustainable prosperity. The experience of South Africa serves as a critical lesson, demonstrating that ideologies focused on destruction rather than building cannot lead to sustainable growth and prosperity.